there's just matchups all over the field, and who knows? This could be the game we see in the first weekend of October, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Well, what a weekend of rugby league we have just witnessed. There were some upsets, some controversial moments as well, and also the NRLW Magic Round, which was fantastic. So much to talk about after another wonderful weekend of rugby league. Welcome to the Billy Slater Podcast. Thanks to Tab. How are you, Billy?
I'm good, Salty. That just sounds like a normal weekend of rugby league. Upsets and controversy. So, yeah, there were a couple of upsets. A couple of the top four teams in the Bulldogs and the Raiders going down to teams that are sitting outside the 8 that probably won't even play finals. So anyone can win on their day. It's a tough old game, rugby league, and if you turn up with the right attitude, you'll put yourself in the contest.
You know what it probably does, Billy, and we'll get onto the games itself in just a moment, and I always, when people start saying, oh, they've got a soft draw or they've got a soft run, is there such a thing in the NRL?
No, I don't think so. And sometimes, the soft draw looks soft, but all of a sudden those teams have nothing to lose and they go out and play with freedom and chance their arm and play a little bit different to the textbook style of the game. And, that can throw a few spinners in the works. And, we saw a couple of teams come unstuck.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll go through some of the results and talking points as well from over the weekend, where there was just so much to talk about. Billy, let's start off with yesterday. You were at the Bermuda Triangle at Shark Park, and the Sharks got the job done there against the North Queensland Cowboys. Where do you see Cronulla at the moment? Where are the Sharks at?
I think they're just sitting at just underneath the best teams in the competition at the moment, or the teams that are in the best form. I think it was one of their more complete performances yesterday, 26-0 at half-time. Conditions in Sydney over the weekend were atrocious, and we saw that on Saturday night, and that continued on Sunday. It was very wet. We very rarely see mud on our NRL pitches now. They're manicured so finely, and they're well looked after, but there was visible mud on the pitch of at Shark Park, and also a layer of water as well. So the conditions weren't great, but their performance was as complete as I've seen them play this year. It was 26-0 at half time, and they just didn't give the Cowboys a chance, and the Cowboys didn't give themselves a chance either through penalties, missed tackles, errors. They really dug themselves a big hole, the Cowboys, and the Sharks made them pay. So it's hard to get a gauge of exactly where they are off that performance, but they're just sitting around that bottom part of the 8. They give themselves a little buffer to get off that 8th position and a win clear of the Dragons. So a bit more comfortable so that they can just focus on their footy.
Yeah, well, they got the job done nicely yesterday, did Cronulla. Speaking of the Sunday games, and this is what we say about, soft draws, etc., the West Tigers, it was always going to be a grudge match, this one, wasn't it? And they hit the ground running against the Bulldogs at CommBank and deserved victory for the Tigers.
Yeah, they got out of the gates quick and they couldn't catch them, the Dogs. They were good, the Tigers. They were physical. They played well. Big position change from Benji Marshall, putting Adam Dewey into the halves. That was a key play in the game, and I thought he was the best player on the field. He really started their momentum with a couple of try assists, and he scored one himself just before half-time, and it just gave them a real buffer leading into half-time, and that just got their confidence up, and they went on with the game. Obviously, the situation, with Lockie Galvin coming back to play his old teammates, that would have been individual motivation for them. Although they say they didn't talk about it, and I believe them, they probably didn't talk about it. But when you come up against a teammate that's just left your club in the fashion that Lockie did, there would be motivation to go and play well against him.
There was a moment in the contest, a high tackle from Stephen Crichton on Terrell May. Where do you sit? Should he have sat down for 10, given, Alex Seyfarth was sin-binned as well? It has become a talking point. We know that May was low to the ground, but Where do you sit on that one, Billy?
I think they got it exactly right, both situations. I thought Alex Seyfarth's situation and high tackle was a sin bin, and I didn't think Stephen Crichton's was, and that's coming from a neutral position. Just watching the game, watching the contributing factors in each tackle. The situation with Alex Seyfarth, he was redlining already. There was a bit of an incident before that play. He was redlining. He took his aggression out in a legal manner, and he got him high, and he actually he was standing pretty tall, the ball carrier as well. And then the Stephen Crichton one, Taylor May, he slipped, and the point of contact was quite low to the ground. So I think they got it exactly right. There's always going to be debate about our game, but I can't complain with how they handled those two situations.
Well, it shows, isn't it? I mean, the game's not black and white, is it, Billy? There's grey area, and you got to treat every decision as you see it.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're under a lot of pressure. Not just the referee on the field, but the touch judges, the referee in the bunker. Sometimes the referee in the bunker is under more scrutiny because everyone's watching that decision and waiting for that decision to be made. So, like I said, I was sitting there watching it live, and I thought, both decisions warranted exactly what they got.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in a game of rugby league, and I think sometimes people have to realise that. We've probably got to put our hands up there ourselves, as commentators. But Billy, as we jump around over the weekend, there's a team that just keeps getting the job done. They're sitting in the 8. They lost arguably their best player during the course of the game on Friday night. I'm talking about the Dolphins and Herbie Farnworth with the hamstring injury. But that was some finish to the game against the Warriors. There's some guts in that footy team that Christian Wolf has, isn't there?
Don't you love a Hail Mary play? The Hail Mary, the just last throw of the dice. We're down, and we saw a couple of them. Nathan Cleary hit one against the Titans on the weekend as well. But the last play of their game, there was still a minute to go, but they weren't going to get the ball back. It was the last tackle, and the Dolphins were down on the scoreboard, and they had one last crack at it, and they went to the left-hand side. It didn't work. They reshuffled, went all the way back to the right-hand side, and they score in the corner. Asako, he dives over in the corner like he usually does, and it was just one of those plays that come off every now and again. It's probably a 1 in 20 chance, but they threw that Hail Mary, and you're right, that they fight harder than most teams, and they've had a whole heap of injuries, long-term injuries as well, to some of their, not just key players, but some of their more senior players. You think of Tom Flegler, you think of Tom Gilbert. They've been out for a long period of time. Max Plath, he does a lot of the consistent work through the middle of the field. And then Herbie Farnworth's the big story to come out of this one. A serious hamstring injury, anywhere up to 8 weeks. So that's halfway through the semi-finals now, and they're certainly going to miss him. He's a real strike player for them. He does a lot of work out of their own end, but he also creates a lot of opportunities just through his footwork and speed. So they're certainly going to miss him, but like they've done all year, I'm sure they'll have someone to fill in that role. Maybe Jake Averillo, he's done a great job in the centres in the past, so he might be someone that will jump into that position.
I've got a left field one for you, Billy.
Ooh, okay.
Interested in your thoughts here, and I know you're not big on weakening of strength, but Trey Fuller is now about a month, 6 weeks back from his ACL. Been playing fullback for the Redcliffe Dolphins in the Host Plus Cup. Does he put the number 1 jersey on? You have the hammer in the centres, and I'm looking at it purely from a rugby league fan's point of view here as well. Then you've got both Trey Fuller and the hammer on the field at the same time. What do you think?
Well, that could be an option. I think I'd be looking at all options to keep Hammer at fullback and try and fill that position. But I'm sure that would be a consideration for Christian Wolf and his coaching staff. But yeah, look, I think their best footy team is with Hammer at fullback, and if you can keep that key position settled, he's playing some great footy at the moment, Hammer, and that'd be the priority to try and keep him there. But you look at all options, you look at your squad, and you try and build your best team.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, the Dolphins have got a game coming up this week against the Roosters. This will be something else. It's Katoa against Walker. I want to ask you, Billy, about Sam Walker's performance against Manly on Saturday night. In the wet, atrocious conditions, as we've been saying, but the short kicking game from Sam Walker, goodness me, that was... you won't see too much better, will you?
I love the way that he just finds the space on the footy field. So there's space on the field all the time. And the good players, and even the good players sometimes struggle getting the ball to the space. But Sam Walker's got a great ability, probably one of the best in the competition, to get the ball to the space, whether that's passing it to the space or whether that's kicking it to the space. We saw that incredible try by Angus Crichton, where they made a line break, Sam Walker got the ball, and I think it was a set restart or a second tackle, and he kicks it straight over the top to Daniel Tupou, who offloads it off the ground, and Angus Crichton scores. And it's those plays that he doesn't care about the situation of the game. He just sees the space, and he knows how to get the ball to the space. So he's a great player to watch. He's very unique in his style, and I love that. I love that he's true to himself and he sticks with what he feels is an attribute to him, and he goes and plays footy. He's hit the ground running, coming off an ACL repair as well. A lot of players take a season to get back and get the rust out and get the knee flowing well, but Sam Walker's hit the ground running, and he's a huge addition to this team leading into the finals. This is a huge game, Salty. This is bigger than just Sam Walker versus Katoa. This is 8th v 9th. This is 24 competition points versus 26 competition points. The Dolphins have an incredible for and against. Remember, they went on that month run where they scored nearly 200 points in a month.
Yep. And
that's put them in a really good position on the ladder at the moment, because if the Roosters beat them, they're not going to go past them because of their for and against. So it's going to keep the Roosters in the competition. I think this means more to the Roosters than the Dolphins, but it'll be desperate versus desperate.
Yeah, it'll be a terrific game at Suncorp. Those listening in southeast Queensland, head along. It's a 5:30 game on Saturday evening for the Dolphins against the Roosters. Just on Sam Walker, I know someone who was very much taken by his performance on Saturday night was Andrew Johns. We were in Newcastle for NRLW Magic Round, just having a couple of mineral waters, Billy, just watching the footy on Saturday night, and yeah, so he was just besotted by Sam, particularly the kicking game, but as you mentioned, the passing game, just loving how he's approaching his footy, because he's got that approach to it, doesn't he, Sam, where it's everything he does so well, and obviously he works hard, watching the game, analysing the game, but he's having fun out there, Billy.
Yeah. You can see it in his game. I was going to say, doesn't Joey love a young halfback that plays well?
Yeah.
He loves it. He gets really excited. But Sam's doing it his way, and I love it. And it's a tough old game, our game, and especially for those 80-kilo players. Sam wouldn't be much more than 80 kilos, 82, 83 kilos maybe. And he's got to defend in the front line. He's had to work extremely hard on that part of the game so he can outlay this unique talent. He's doing a great job, Sam, and he's only going to get better.
And just on young halves, it's unusual to, I suppose, praise a player after your team has 60 points scored against them, but just talking about the Rabbitohs on Saturday night, and we'll get to Brisbane in just a moment with their big win, but Ashton Ward was just thrust into the halves on Saturday, and he had some nice things about him. Obviously, the chase from Jordan Ricky, the try-saving tackle there on Friday night, but he showed a couple of positive signs for the Bunnies.
Yeah, without doubt. And the chase on Jordan Ricky was the key highlight for Ashton Ward, and he did another one on the other side of the field as well. But there was a couple of moments where he just straightened the attack, and I was actually sitting next to Andrew Johns and yourself, Salty, calling the game, and you could tell how excited Joey was getting when he was actually doing these things. Nothing was happening outside it, but he was actually creating some opportunities through just his straightness and directness of his play. And he's only a really small guy. He's got plenty of development left in him. I think he's 20 or 21 years old and playing his second NRL game. And the first time he started in the halves, and he was the shining light for the Bunnies in that 60-point loss. And although there was 60 points that were scored against them, they tried really hard. They've got a full first grade team sitting on the sideline, and the injury toll is unrivaled in the NRL at the moment. What they're going through, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and it's unfortunate to see that because it is such a brutal game. You do tend to get injuries, and they're just going through a horror run at the moment.
Talk about injuries, and this one might get glossed over, Billy, but I'm sure certainly won't internally at Brisbane, and that's the injury to Xavier Willison, who's arguably been one of Brisbane's form forwards for the last couple of months.
Absolutely, without doubt, and especially with all the little niggles that Payne Haas is going through. He's been the glue in that forward pack through the whole season, Xavier Willison. Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan get a lot of the raps, and rightfully so. They did in 2023 as well, but they also had a guy by the name of Tom Flegler, who was the glue in that year. I think it's a huge loss. It is a huge loss, and I know Payne Haas will come back this week, and there's a huge game, down in Melbourne on Thursday night, which we'll get to. But Xavier Willison will certainly be felt with his omission. They do have some lesser profile forwards that are going under the radar at the moment that will fill the boots of Big Xavier. And that's Kobe Hetherington. I think when he came on the field, his leg speed, he was really noticeable when he came on the field. Ben Talty is doing a wonderful job. He's a guy that has been around, played in the New South Wales Cup, played for the North Sydney Bears. Went to Brisbane with an opportunity. I think he's 26 or 27 years old. And he's finally got his opportunity to play first grade. He's doing a wonderful job. And then guys like Corey Jensen, they're really standing up in the middle as well. So, look, I think they can fill that void, but it's going to be a huge loss because he's certainly been one of the key forwards, not just for the Broncos, but in the competition.
Yeah, he's going to be a huge loss, that's for sure. Just on Brisbane, you made mention of their next opponent, which is Melbourne in Melbourne. They play each other twice. They'll play each other again in round 27, but I know we'll talk about the rest of the round in just a moment, but since we're touching on the Broncos and Melbourne coming off that hard-fought win against Parramatta, oh boy, what a way to start off round 23 this week, with Brisbane v Melbourne in Melbourne.
It's the highlight of round 23, and we only have to wait till Thursday, which is a bonus. Look, I think the Broncos really got their balance right last week against the Rabbitohs. They worked really hard in the first half. They played really conservative. They got to their kick. They built that foundation, and then they went after their game. Look, I don't think the Broncos are a team that can do that like Penrith for 80 minutes, can just stay in that grind and win 2-0. I think they've got too many players in their team that just want points and have the ability to create points. So I think you need to lean into that a little bit. But they found their balance, and all their key players played well. Ben Hunt was great at dummy half. Billy Walters come on and played a good role at dummy half. And then their halves connected really well. Reece was really measured with his performance. He looked really relaxed, and they'll be coming down to Melbourne with extreme confidence. You've got to put it into context of who they played last week, and if they do get ahead of themselves a little bit, that'll show when you play the good teams like Melbourne. But it's going to be a whopping game. Cameron Munster up against Ezra Mam. You got Reece Walsh, Pappenhausen battle, and there's just matchups all over the field. And who knows? This could be the game we see in the first weekend of October, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Yeah, two very good football teams. Just on Melbourne, Billy, and Tyron Wishart wearing the number 7 jumper. Will that continue to be the case at least for the next couple of weeks, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think Craig will stay with that. I think he's made that decision, and until injury or form says otherwise, I think he will stay with that. I was impressed with Jonah Pezzett when he did come on the field. He didn't get much time against Parramatta, but he was the player that actually created and straightened the attack when Cameron Munster put the kick over for Xavier Coates, and that was a match-winning play, and he was involved in that. So he does bring a lot to the table. They're two very different players. It's just about how you want to play, and I think he's made his decision, and I think he'll stick with it.
All right. Yeah, well, Melbourne v Brisbane this week. Both teams coming off wins over the weekend. One team that will go into this weekend off a loss is the Canberra Raiders. What did you make of that one against the Dragons? Billy, is it a blip, or is there cause for concern there for Ricky? How did you see it?
Well, when was their last loss? It would have been ago. April. Give them a spell.
Yeah.
And it was 2 tries all. A few penalty goals sort of put the opposition in front. And, they're playing at home. They're a tough team, the Dragons, and I'm sure Ricky Stewart and his men will be looking at the video, going, okay, there's some areas of our game that we just let slip. Let's get back to what's put us in a good position, not just on the ladder, but a good position with our footy. And I think it'll just be a little speed bump, and they'll be back. Who have they got next week? I wouldn't like to be playing them. Manly, the Manly Sea Eagles, who are fighting for their season. I think you'll see a really committed Canberra Raiders team. What's that? That's our Friday night game. That'll be a whopper.
Yeah.
Down in Canberra. Yeah, be interesting to see how they turn up in that first 10 minutes.
Yeah, that will be something else this week on Friday night, that's for sure. Hey, Billy, just top of the head here, because the Dragons nearly beat Canberra a few weeks ago, and there's certain teams, aren't there, sometimes that they just seem to match up no matter where they are on the table. So, because the Dragons nearly stole that game a couple of weeks ago, so. Did you find that at all? I mean, even though most of the time you just roll through teams, but were there clashes that just tend to maybe struggle with, despite where teams were on the table? Because we see it a bit.
Yeah, their styles. Yeah, sometimes you get the styles that suit other teams, and there's a bit of talk around the Bulldogs not performing in the wet either. I don't know the stat around it, but I've heard a few people say that the Bulldogs are dry trackers. So with the horse racing, some horses don't like the tight circuits, some like the bigger, wider tracks, some like wet tracks, some like dry tracks. So maybe it's the same with footy teams. Some teams just match up really good against each other, and they have the wood on them. We call them the bunnies of that team, and some like the conditions as well. I think the really, really good teams, that they've got the ability to adapt to anyone. And we've seen that with Penrith over the years. And, Canberra are a really good team this year, but they're still working all those things out. They're still working out how to change their style and play a different way and all that sort of stuff. They got their own style, which is quite unorthodox, but, they'll look at this and they'll grow from it. And, every experience you go through, whether you win or lose, you're always putting it in the backpack and you're taking it along the ride with you, and you remember those. So they just round you as a better team. And I'm sure Ricky Stewart and his men will be looking at their performance on the weekend and trying to benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and we'll have a look into that stat as well. I know David Middleton is a keen viewer of the podcast. I don't know whether he keeps the weather stats with his stats, but if it's in the softer heavy range, then we put a line through the Bulldogs. Is that the case?
There you go. I'm hearing it. Yeah, I've heard it from a few people, actually. So someone at the airport pulled me up last night and said, Bulldogs, they're no good in the wet. They can't win in the wet. So I don't know if that was just a one-off, but look into it further.
All right, we will. This is the Billy Slater Podcast. We do it all thanks to Tab.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, bankers-flying, turbo try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Billy M medal time on the Billy Slater Podcast, thanks to Tab. All right, this is the stage of the week where Billy picks the best player of the round and the best team of the round. Billy, best team performance following round 22.
Well, the team and the player are going to come from the same team. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The team of the round is the Tigers. You can't go past the Tigers. The Tigers are taking on the Bulldogs, who are sitting in the top four. There's probably two teams that you could really go with. You go with the Dragons, but I just feel the Tigers' performance as well was really dominant against a team that are pushing to win a premiership. And they've had a tough run this year, the Tigers, but their last few weeks they won 2 of the last 3 games, and their performance was as good as I've seen them play for a long time. The Tigers against a quality team, plenty to play for both teams, and Tigers are the team of the week.
Well, I think it's now obvious then who your player of the week is.
Well, I don't know whether to give it to the player or to the coach that put him in that position. I think Benji Marshall needs a huge mention to put Adam Doueihi into the halfback position. Not only did he go and play in the halves, I don't know whether he's playing 5'8" or halfback, but not only did he go and play in the halves, he pretty much did all the kicking. Jerome Luai is a great kicker of the football, but Adam Doueihi controlled that part of the game as well. He pretty much set up their victory. Set up a few tries early in the game and then scored one just before halftime. He ran the length, and that just gave the Tigers the belief and the confidence that, hey, hang on, we can go on and we can beat this team. This team are flying at the moment, and we can actually win this. So, I just thought Adam Doueihi's performance on the weekend was better than anyone else's performance. Obviously, Nathan Cleary needs a mention as well. I thought he had a clutch moment right at the end of the game, but Adam Doueihi, he takes the chocolates.
Yeah, well done to Adam Doueihi. You mentioned Nathan Cleary. Remiss of me before not to talk about that performance. Let's talk about it now before we move on. In fact, we will in just a moment, because we've got to wrap up the Billy M medal, and we do it thanks to Tab. The NRL season is here. For the best time in sport, Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
All right, before we get to our listener questions, Billy, the Titans against the Panthers on Saturday afternoon. It was a seesawing contest. One team dominated the first half, then the Titans came back, and then just when I thought the Titans were going to get the win, step up Nathan Cleary.
Well, let's start at the end. That was. Look, was it surprising? No. Was it brilliant? Yes. Nathan Cleary. So, paint the picture. Titans are 2 points up. The game's about to be finished, and the Panthers have got the ball. I thought they went too far. So 2-point field goals right on the 40-metre line. They went nearly to the 20. But Nathan just ran backwards. Last play of the game, the Hail Mary, the same as the Dolphins threw, and he's hit a 40-metre field goal like he hit it so sweet. It just sailed straight between the uprights. And the reaction from his teammates showed how unsurprised they were that he made that play. It was just like, okay, we get the kickoff now. We're going into Golden Point. Let's go and get this job done. It was, most teams would carry on play up like a $2 watch, and but not the Panthers. They're so used to seeing Nathan Cleary come up with these moments at the end of the game, especially off his boot. I thought it was an incredible play. A great pass from the dummy half, Mitch Kenny. he knew what the play was and he put everything into that pass. He got it to the spot. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. And then Blaze Talangi, he was the one that made the match-winning try. It was, talk about a game of two halves. Panthers getting out to a brilliant lead. I think it was like 20-0 at half-time or something like that. There was 4 tries in the first half. Panthers didn't score a try in the second half, and the Titans went to work, and they're a really dangerous team. I reckon there was 2 players for the Titans that were key, and that's their fullback, AJ Brimson, and probably my favourite player to watch in the competition, Jayden Campbell. I absolutely love watching him play. He plays with humility, he plays with respect, and he's so brilliant at so many different things in the game. His running game is outstanding. The way he's elusive in traffic, it just looks like he knows what he's doing, and then everyone else doesn't know what he's doing. And he's got a great passing game. He's evolved into this halfback now. We all know what type of player his father was, and he's certainly got those traits that Preston had in his game as well. I love watching Jayden play, and they would have been really disappointed in the sheds after the game that they let that one slip.
Billy, there's talk around the place that Jayden Campbell's future may not be at the Gold Coast. Keanu Kinney to come back. They've got, obviously, AJ Brimson there as well. But if you've got him, you try to find a way to keep him, don't you?
He'd be in my team. Absolutely, he'd be in my team. I thought he could be a top 5 fullback in the game, top 3 fullback. Like he's got so many great attributes, and he put them on display, on the weekend. I remember when he re-signed with the Gold Coast Titans. There was I think there was a lot of opportunity to go elsewhere, probably for a lot more money. But he's a Gold Coast boy. He grew up there and he wanted to stay there. I thought that showed a whole heap of loyalty. He's someone that you could really build around. Like I said, he'd be in my team.
Yeah, exciting player, that's for sure. All right, let's get on to our listener questions for this week. Now, Billy, we saw what happened with the Jerome Hughes re-signing and the domino effect it's had with Jonah Pezzett. What's your view on the Storm's ongoing strategy with their off-contracted players? Are they prioritising loyalty, or are they playing the long game to keep the spine secure, even if it means losing a future star? That's from Will.
Well, that's a complex question, Will. I think you need to. I'm sure they would look at the big picture on what's happening here. I think the priority is re-signing Jerome Hughes. I think that would have been a priority. You make sure, like, you can't go to Coles or Woolworths and pick up a Jerome Hughes in aisle 7. They're not available. So when you've got the opportunity to sign a guy like Jerome, who not only has the credentials, he's a premiership winning halfback, Dally M medalist from last year, but he wants to stay at your club. When you've got someone like that, I remember Reece Walsh when he was re-signing, he wanted to be a Bronco. Like that's you're nearly halfway there with that. So you got to make sure that you're signing those key positions that you think are going to take your club forward. Don't worry, it's attractive for younger halves to be in and around great players like Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster and Ryan Pappenhausen and Harry Grant and learning off them. I remember Harry spent many of years underneath the great Cameron Smith, and then he went on loan for 1 year and came back. So, I don't think it's any one thing. It's not loyalty. It's not this and not that. It's looking at your squad, looking at the future. Who do you think is going to take your club forward into the next phase, but at the same time, not forget about the now. Sometimes we look at the future way too much and we forget about the now, and then all of a sudden we're in the future and we don't have the future and we don't have the now, we don't have anything. So, you got to think about the now and, with an eye on the future as well.
And cool heads like the Frank Panisis of the world, the Melbourne Storm football manager, are going to be order of the day, aren't they, in this next coming 2-3 years, where there'll be a lot of frenzied signings and re-signings with new clubs coming in. Cool heads often prevail.
Well, that's the thing. You look at every key signing that is happening right now. I'm sure James Bracey and the Bears are just going, when can we start? When can we start throwing our line in the pond and seeing if we can catch a fish? They can't even throw their line in yet.
Nope.
That's why I think it's incredibly crazy that the Dolphins, the Bears can't even throw their line in and start catching fish yet, because all these players like the Jerome Hugheses and key players in the NRL, they're all getting signed now because clubs know that there's another team coming in the competition in 15 months time. They'll be looking to sign some big players. So the players are fully understanding and aware of the situation and the environment of the game at the moment. And the game's in a really good place. There's a lot of money involved in the game. Players are getting paid extremely well. But when we talk about players getting paid an extreme amount of money, like I'm talking like up to 15% of the salary cap. As a player, you've got to be really careful of that. You've got to be really careful how much money you take from the salary cap. Because if you take too much, you won't be passing the ball too much. So you want to be involved in a successful team. So there's a real balance to both sides of, not just players, but also clubs. They're trying to balance their salary cap to be successful. Well, players have to do the same. They have to balance their salary to be involved in a successful team. I've got no doubt that Nathan Cleary could be on 1.8 million if he wanted to. But would he be in a successful footy team? That's what you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, and they're all great points that you make. And just going back to one that you said a moment or so ago about the Perth Bears having to wait. The Dolphins are in a similar boat. Do you think that's the reason why they haven't made the change that we can't do for the Bears what we did for the Dolphins? But I would have thought, Billy, and you got me thinking now, I would have thought that perhaps it's almost learning from not so much a mistake, because the Dolphins did very well in the end building a list, but just say, okay, Perth, you're in, and you can start signing from August. The rest of the competition is November. I don't think too many people have an argument there, surely.
No, I totally agree. Yes, that's probably one of the reasons why the Bears have to wait, is because the Dolphins had to wait. But just because it didn't happen in the past doesn't mean it's right. I think we can learn from the past and go, all right, well, let's try and set this. Peter V'landys has come out already and said we want the Bears to be successful. We want Papua New Guinea to be successful like the Dolphins. Give them a hand. Give them a hand to be successful. The AFL actually give more money to Sydney, give more money to Brisbane, to help them. The Gold Coast, I don't know how many concessions the Gold Coast had with their salary cap. And I'm not talking about salary cap concessions. I'm talking about just time frame concessions.
Yes.
Let them throw their line in the pond a little bit earlier than some other clubs to catch some fish, because it's going to take a fair attraction to go over to Perth. It's to move your family over to the other side of the country. You're nearly in another country. You're nearly in another country over there. The time difference and how long it takes to get back, especially if you're from Townsville or Brisbane or somewhere like that. That's a long travel. So that's just my view. I think the game could actually give them a bit of a leg up.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be too many arguments, that's for sure. All right. Now, this one's from Hugh. Another question. It says, hi, Billy. The Warriors put in a huge performance at home against the Dolphins but came up short. They've had a lot of close losses this season. As a former player and now a coach, what's the one key thing you see them needing to fix to turn these close games into wins, especially when they have the home crowd behind them? That is a good question coming in there from Hugh.
Yeah, it is a good question, and there's many factors for this. I don't think the Warriors are going all that bad. Close losses, it could be a lot worse. There's certainly some things that they could tinker with. They got beaten by a Hail Mary play by the Dolphins on the weekend, and just having a breeze through the key positions of the Warriors at the moment, that their number one hooker, Wade Egan, he's out. Samuel Healy's he's playing number 9. Obviously, their halfback in Metcalf, he's out for the season. Chanel Harris-Tavita is their starting number 6. Now they've got Tanner Boyd and Tamade Martin in the halves, and their number one fullback is Chance Nickel Kluxter, and he's playing in the centres through necessity, through injury. Tua Picky's playing at fullback. So their 4 key positions aren't their number one key positions in those positions. So I think there's a whole heap of factors, and that hasn't been throughout the whole season, but I think it certainly is a contributing factor. I think Metcalf injury is a big one. So that's contributed to a whole heap of disruption within the footy team. He was leading the Dally M, I believe, when he sort of got injured.
Yes.
But they're not going all that bad. They're still in the top 8. They're in the top 4 at the moment. And, they're flying at the moment, the Dolphins, and they got beaten by a Hail Mary from them. So, they're not going all that bad.
All right, we'll tell you who the Warriors have got this week in just a moment, because we're all excited about it at 9 when they're away to the Bulldogs this Saturday night, but we'll get to that shortly. But right now it's time for the Ampol Power Surge, and this week we are looking for the top 3 worst grounds to play at in the rain.
In the rain, okay. I've gone a little bit left field with a couple of them. The first one, and not so much now, but certainly when I was playing, is Brookvale Oval. Like that was it was like running on a mattress. So you can imagine what it's like when it's raining. It's probably the hardest surface to run on. Now it's immaculate. Now the players of today, they'll be going, "What are you talking about, Bill? Brookvale's actually like carpet. It's actually one of the best surfaces in the game." So, but back in, it was only probably about 10 years ago that it was honestly like so spongy that your calves would be burning, you're fatiguing. I don't know how Manly players actually enjoyed playing there half of their games for the season, but Brookvale Oval certainly number 1. I'm going to go left field here, not so much for the ground, but going to Darwin. I played a game in Darwin, and it wasn't raining, but it felt like I was raining by the time I hit the field because I was sweating that much. We actually warmed up. We warmed up in an air-conditioned room, and it was the worst thing we could ever do. So by the time we actually hit the field, we were just dripping with sweat. So that was a tough one. And the other one in the rain is I actually loved playing there. It was one of the highlights of my career. Played a World Cup final there. That's Old Trafford over in Manchester, and the reason being is because the in goals are probably 4 metres long, and then half a metre out off the dead ball line, it just drops off about 1.5 metres, and it just goes down into the fence. So you'd score a try, and basically you'd have to try and get to your feet before you ended up in row 4. So that in the wet, that wasn't great for that, but it was a great experience to play at Old Trafford, and obviously one of the famous stadiums of the world, and playing a World Cup final there.
Yeah, wow. Now, who went down one of those?
Brett Morris.
Brett Morris did, Brett Morris.
Yeah, might have been Josh Morris. I'm not sure which. They look the same, the Morris boys.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
One of them went right into the fence, went straight over into the little gully there. Did you see Sifa Talakai go into the water, into the corner of the stadium at Shark Park yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, he slid over and he nearly had to have a snorkel on. He ended up half submerged in water. There was that much water at Shark Park yesterday that in the corner, I think it was the northwest corner.
Deep water, that's for sure. All right, so that is the 3 worst grounds to play on in the rain, and it's the Ampol Power Surge for this week. Whether you're cheering on from the sidelines or from the living room, Ampol's got your back on and off the field, proud to power Australia's own sporting nation. I've got to say, Billy, just before we get to round 23, just on weather, the weather in Newcastle over the weekend, I was there for NRLW Magic round. As we know, Saturday was just terrible weather all throughout Sydney and then up into the Hunter. But well done to all concerned for putting on a great NRLW Magic round. Crowds were down, yes, but that's because of the weather. But it was a great vibe around the place, and well done to everyone, and still having that weekend go ahead despite what was happening from above.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great location to have something like that. We all know how much Newcastle people and the people of the Hunter love their footy and love their footy team. So, to have a spectacle like the NRLW Magic round up there, it would have been fantastic. A bit of shame about the weather, but we can't do much about that, Salty.
No, that's right. But yeah, well done to everyone. All right, round 23 of the NRL this week. Now, just want to make mention of these three games in particular, Billy. Thursday night, we've got Melbourne against Brisbane. Friday night, it's Raiders against Manly. Saturday night, it's Bulldogs against Warriors. 3 blockbuster games, prime time, 3 nights in a row. All of them on 9, because we start our Saturday night coverage this week on 9. So, wow, those 3 contests are brilliant.
Well, we've spoken about the Thursday night contest. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to be on the sideline for that one. That's going to be brilliant. The Friday night, both of these teams are coming off a loss. Manly's fighting for their season, and the Raiders, well, we spoke about, that they will be looking to bounce back. They won something like 10 in a row, and they've just hit their first hurdle. They don't want that hurdle to get bigger. And then on the Saturday night, again, both of these top 4 teams are coming off a loss, the Bulldogs and the Warriors. With finals only a month away, you don't want to be hitting 2 losses in a row this close to the finals. You want to be starting to gain your momentum now and starting to build your game and hitting your peak in September. So there's some crucial games, and some of the teams that have had a bit of comfort at the top of the ladder are starting to feel a little bit pressure now. So that desperation will come into their game, and we might see the best of them.
Yeah, it's going to be terrific. 5 rounds to go between now and the finals. We're going to enjoy each and every moment over the next 5 weeks before the finals are here. Billy, it's been great once again. Look forward to seeing you at the footy this weekend for round 23. Have a great week, and we'll be back next week.
I'll be there. See you there, mate.
Thanks, Billy. That's Billy Slater. I'm Peter Psaltis. This has been the Billy Slater Podcast. Thanks to Tab. A new episode is out each and every Monday.